Hello people, how are you doing? I'm very tempted to make a brief comment on the latest political development on the other side of the Atlantic, but I'll restrain myself for this time. I don't know, I might start a new channel dedicated to socio-political commentary, but I want to keep this one dedicated to gaming and technology. So, what's new? Before I do that, I want to mention that a couple of weeks ago I had done a rather lengthy video log commenting on the new announcements by Microsoft and Apple, the revelation of a Nintendo Switch and some other stuff. But this video never came out and never will come to surface because my newly installed video editing software crashed miserably due to incompatibilities with Windows 10. My good internet pal Michelle Knight suggested that I investigate the possibility of running Linux and to try my luck with this alternative operating system, but I don't know. Right now it seems too troublesome to start exploring an operating system that I haven't ever used seriously for productivity purposes, and frankly speaking, the learning curve of familiarizing myself with a new video editing piece of software and the time I'd have to invest in it, it's a bit discouraging at the moment. But we'll see. I don't exclude this scenario. Anyway, I'll try to briefly summarize what I had said in that lost video of mine. So, first of all, about Microsoft Surface Studio. It was so refreshing and quite surprising to see Microsoft actually taking cues from Apple and demonstrating something truly impressive and innovative. That's not a gimmick, but it's actually practical and genuinely new way to interact with a computer. Specifically a computer designed for the professional creators, the graphic artists, the illustrators, painters, architects. This Microsoft Surface Studio, it's not an exaggeration to say that it redefines what we consider a computer, a personal computer, a PC, and I think it brings us one step closer to the so-called ubiquitous computing. All you have in front of you is this giant digital slab, a 28, I think, inch touch screen with which you can interact with a digital pen. And this nifty new device that resembles a hockey puck, and you just place it on the screen and it becomes a rotary dial, and depending on the application you're running, when you place it on the screen, it brings up a context-driven menu and various controls. You really have to watch the demo. If I remember to put the link down below for you to see, to actually see for yourself how impressive and really effective this control scheme is. It's not a gimmick at all. On the other hand, Apple's presentation was, to put it mildly, disappointing. The best thing that he had to show was the new MacBook Pro lineup, and the super and magical new feature was the Touch Bar. Yay! Which is essentially a touch-sensitive LCD strip that substitutes the function keys. Yeah. I think more useful than that is the integration of the fingerprint sensor, the ID sensor, which is taking right off the iPhones, which is very practical and very useful. But besides that, the hardware was, I think it was about the same as the previous generation of MacBook Pros. So the new machines are even more expensive, and they don't even have the latest CPU technology. They still run on Skylake. You know, Intel's, I think it's the 6th generation of CPUs. Instead of the recently announced Kaby Lake processors. And you'd expect from the history of Apple and the exclusive deals they had made, if you remember a few years ago when they announced the first MacBook Air, they had a 1-year exclusive contract deal with Intel to utilize their processors, so they were 1 year ahead of the competition before the other companies had the chance to release their ultrabooks. But no, this time it's same old. Yeah, it was a little frustrating to see Apple once again patting themselves on the back and exclaiming their coolness and how edgy and magical their products are. You know, this famous distortion field, this bubble of hot air. And in reality, I think they are resting on their laurels. They are stagnating both creatively and technologically, and I think sadly Steve Jobs has taken with him a lot of the vision and forward thinking that was the true staple of Apple's differentiation. And you know, personally, I think I found that it was kind of shocking, you know, the contrast between the two presentations. If you didn't know who was who comparing the two presentations from Microsoft and Apple, you'd think that actually the roles were reversed. It is Microsoft this time around who is embracing a new and bold computer interaction paradigm. I mean, they are all over touch-driven systems, and they have shown the first, how shall I put it, holistic, comprehensive, end-to-end 3D workflow, you know, from capturing to digitally manipulating 3D objects to importing them into augmented reality projects, and finally outputting them in the form of solid 3D objects using 3D printers. They already have this workflow in place. They have shown that it's not just a proof of concept, that they actually have the systems to do that. both for the professional and the consumer market. Modern Apple is really bores me. It bores me to tears. I find old Macintoshes more interesting now that I have this craving for old retro systems, and one of these days I want to show you some of the old 80s and 90s Apple computers that I've added to my collection, from the first all-in-one Macintoshes to a couple of really wonderfully built Power Macs that are around 15 to 20 years old. And also, I should mention one thing about Apple. I don't want to forget this, because it make an ugly impression on me that it really pisses me off. Yeah, their pretentiousness in a couple of instances, when they mock vintage computers and technologies to promote their latest innovations. Of course, some of you might remember how, again air quotes, how courageous it was of them to get rid of the analog audio output on the new iPhone 7, and the ridiculous argument they had for this, that they had to get rid of the audio jack to cram a more modern technology, more battery. And in fact, all they want to do is to push you buy their extravagant and expensive new, what do they call it, the AirPods, those Bluetooth headsets. That's all they want to do. So the same ridiculous argument they replicated once more on the more recent MacBook Pro presentation. This time around, they showed an old microcomputer from the late 70s, I think, and they claimed that, look at that old computer, they said, it had function keys. Now, using function keys is so passé, is so anachronistic. You're not cool anymore if you don't use the touch bar. You're still using function keys, you poor bastard. If you don't use the touch bar, you're not cool. Apparently. So enough about the Cupertino jerks. A few comments on the Nintendo Switch. It's a beautiful machine. I like the design. I like the charcoal gray color scheme. It's a slick machine, but apart from that, I'm indifferent and somehow apathetic towards it. I mean, I don't know what the hell they're smoking over there in Nintendo, but making another underpowered machine with no direct compatibility with previous systems, really? Is that the path they are taking again? I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyhow, Nintendo, I might be indifferent because Nintendo was never a part of my childhood, so I can't really get excited about that. Many people out there, they are truly, pumped and stoked about this, but it's good for them, but for me it's without any consequence. So, and the same goes with that weird NES Classic. I don't really see the point on these machines. Perhaps if you asked me a few months back, I would respond positively to this kind of machines, such as the what was it called, the Spectrum Vega, or the that newly announced revived Commodore 64 that I have no idea what has become of. But frankly, at this particular moment, I don't care. I'd rather get a piece of the original hardware. I mean, eBay's chocked full of cheap machines in pristine condition. Why bother spending your money on modern replicas and emulated hardware when you can get your hands on the original hardware? It's a preference. I don't see the point, and I think to an extent it's pure nostalgia exploitation. So yeah. Instead, I've decided to enrich my retro collection with this really spiffy Nintendo GBA, which is it's custom painted with pearlescent gold color, and of course it's backlit and very nice, and it came with this Super Mario 3, boxed and complete. So yeah, and in fact I have ordered a couple of other Nintendo consoles, also custom painted. A Super NES and a Nintendo 64, and I hope they'll get through the mail soon. And from the pictures they look really, really beautiful, and I can't wait getting them and putting them on myself to admire them. So what else? Yeah, finally I have played the game through and through. I finished Assassin's Creed Unity, which is not the latest in the franchise, but at least I have finished the game, and all I've been doing is playing some main games and casual gaming. I finally found some time to finish a proper AAA modern game, and I really like the Assassin's Creed franchise. At least I finished the main campaign, because there are a ton of side missions and DLC campaign that remain to be beaten. I have to say, man, it's such beautiful designed game. So many times I've caught myself just staring at the beautiful graphics. At some point you find yourself walking inside the palace of Versailles in Paris, and it's amazing how realistic and gorgeous everything looks. The lavish decorations and the crystal chandeliers, exquisite decorations, the Renaissance murals and paintings, which actually are replicas of real actual paintings, and you see all those people, the vast number of NPCs in the street doing their thing. especially when the French Revolution erupts and you see all those people marching and rallying outside the Bastille, singing revolutionary anthems and waving flags and so on. It's absolutely amazing. And at the same time, I think it's astonishing how many people worked so hard for this, to make this realistic setting, this recreation of the late 18th century Paris. Admittedly, the core gameplay is a repetition from previous entries in the franchise, but you know, the level of sophistication and the polish of this game is phenomenal. I'm really disappointed on all the negativity that this game has received. You know, many people just don't appreciate the hard work that's been put in these games. They don't even stop for a while to smell the proverbial rose. I mean, just to feast their senses and to take in all the audiovisual pleasure that these games have to offer. They just rush through the game. It's wham bam, let's go to another game, you know, like fast food. And I think it's a shame. Yeah. So I've recorded quite a lot of this game, and I'd like to make a complete let's play of the main campaign, at least when I have the time, when I finally have my video editing software set up properly. But I don't know yet what I'll do next, and I'm torn between going for Mad Max and or the next Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I'm open to suggestions. Which one of the two? Next, what's next? Oh, yeah, some news on my problematic Commodore 128. So I got a new character ROM and I replaced the German EEPROM that was installed, and indeed the situation was improved. Apparently the German character EEPROM was malfunctioning, and now I can finally see the proper characters and boot screens. However, the problems persist. They didn't stop there. Now the keyboard is not recognized, and I suspect there is another malfunctioning chip, probably the CIA chip. There are a couple of chips that do the same job, or they share. I'm sorry. They share the same responsibility. It's a duo of chips, and I was told that I can swap a couple of chips that are from the Amiga 500 that are essentially the same and fit exactly on the Commodore 128 motherboard, and I could also use the same chips from Commodore 64, but as I later discovered, those chips on the 664 are soldered onto the mainboard. They are not on a socket, so I don't want to risk harming another system. Well, at least I'm a step closer to the solution, and I have ruled out the possibility of one or more faulty RAM chips. So we have progress, slow but steady nevertheless. Yeah, let's go to some game pickups. I have a few games that I have. First it's Zork Grand Inquisition for they're all PC games. I haven't played a Zork adventure for decades. This one is called Beyond Divinity. It's a Diablo 2 clone, and it's supposed to be very good, but I don't think I have time to invest in such games, time-consuming games with lengthy campaigns and this RPG progression that there's very tiny. Anyway, Heroes 5, a strategic game, which seems quite good, but yeah, also time consuming. Another strategy game, Port Royale 2. It's in the same vein with the Anno series, ANNO. It's it has to do more with trading and establishing cities and colonies. Yeah. It's very, very interesting genre of games. Leisure Suit Larry, one of the latest installments in that. Love for Sale. Yeah. Perhaps not as good as the first Sierra games of Leisure Suit Larry, but still enjoyable. The Devil Inside. I have no freaking idea what this game is. I just got it with a bunch. And one of the more interesting games, it's Heretic 2. I had played this game quite a lot back in the day. It's essentially it's a medieval version of Quake, but instead of guns and lasers, you have arrows and I don't know what else. I don't remember what other projectile weapon from the old days. Okay, I think it's time I wrap this up. One last thing. I have several newly acquired retro systems, and I'd like to show them to you, but I don't want to rush things. It's I feel very good having them in my possession after all these years, and I really wish I had started this much sooner. It's very good having those wonderful machines, and some of them are quite special, and they deserve a proper setting and a presentation, a clear and tidy desk, which at the moment I don't have. It's very, very messy here now, and perhaps a bottle of fine scotch to celebrate them. So they are machines that I longed for when I was younger, and finally I can afford them now and add them to my collection. So until next time, take care and stay out of harm's way.